Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is day 3 of our full bike build. Today we're going to be taking our bike and we're going to be installing the cassette onto the rear wheel. We're going to install the chain. We're going to install the pedals, and then we are going to lace the derailleur and hopefully the brakes, but we'll see how far we get today. All right, let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to be doing today is installing our cassette onto our rear wheel. We need to remove the quick release from the wheel in order to be able to install the cassette. So we'll pull this off and set it aside. Remember that the cassette has splines in it, and the smaller spline will match the spline on the cassette driver. We're going to set this first set of cassettes onto here. And then we've got 2 loose sprockets. We're going to put the larger of the 2 on first, and then the smaller one. And then we are going to install the lock nut or the lock ring. Note that the lock ring says it works for an 11-tooth sprocket. We have 11 teeth on this outer sprocket, so that's going to do it for us. We're going to install a little bit of grease on those threads and then thread it in first by hand. We can actually turn the cassette backwards on the cassette body, and then we're going to tighten it down with a cassette tool. Here we have our cassette tool. It is splined and matches the lock ring. We're going to use a large adjustable wrench to tighten this down. And we're just going to snug it in there. Make sure that it can still spin freely. Sometimes excess tension on this will affect that, but this is spinning nice and easy. We check it to see if it wiggles back and forth, and it does not. So we're set and ready to put this on the bike. One of the drawbacks of this bike that I just figured out is that it is designed for a wider tire, but because it's got the rim brake on it, the wide tire is not able to actually go up into place inflated. So I had to deflate the tire a little bit in order to get this to get onto the bike. I'm just going to have to pinch the tire past the brake as we install it. Once it's installed, it won't be a problem. We'll pump it up and it'll work just fine. So when installing this tire, we're just going to pull up. We're going to pull the derailleur out of the way and pull the wheel up into place and hold it in place with our knee as we tighten down the quick release. And there we have it. These pedals don't actually have wrench flats on them, but instead use an 8mm Allen wrench from the back. So we're going to have to actually pull the Allen wrench through and tighten down the pedals this way. Again, we want to examine our threads to make sure that we're putting the correct pedal in the correct side. This one, the threads are moving up and to the right. That means it is a right hand thread and therefore is the right pedal. We are going to grease our pedal spindles, or rather the threads on the cranks, and then turn the pedals into place on the crankset. I can get this started by hand relatively easily, and then we'll finish up using the tool. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, but we want to make sure that we are turning lefty-tighty from the opposite edge, and just enough to get them started. We can then use our Allen wrench but we want to make sure that we are turning the correct direction. So once again, I want the wrench to be turning this way or righty-tighty, but since I'm working from the back, it kind of looks like I'm doing the opposite. From this side, I am going to be turning to the right, but from the opposite edge, that would relate to the pedal spinning in lefty-tighty because it is reverse threaded. And we might have a little bit of damage on these threads because it's not going in super easy, but it's not so hard that I'm alarmed that I'm cross-threading the pedal. I just think we have a little bit of damage on the threads, and we're gonna cinch those down nice and tight. We're gonna do the same here. It's a bit awkward with this kind of setup, so we're gonna go from below and reset one more time to really tighten those down. But that gives us a really clean look on the outside here, where we just have this flare that melds into the crank just nicely. And now we can use the pedals when we actually install the chain and start setting up the gear. Okay, we're now gonna install this chain. It's a 10-speed chain. We've got 10 gears on the back, so we're matching up the number of speeds on the chain with the number of speeds on the rear sprockets. I'm gonna open this packaging up and see what it contains. We've got a chain and we've got a quick link. So we're gonna be using the quick link to attach the chain, and that's gonna affect how we size the chain. So we need to keep that in mind. Pull the chain out of here, and we are going to use the big and big method. So we're gonna wrap the chain over the front sprocket and the rear sprocket all the way. So that's a big rear sprocket there. And we're gonna come all the way around the front sprocket. Now, what we wanna do, lay the chain over the front sprocket, and bring the chain in like so. So here we have our reference rivet right here. And because this is a 1x system with a modern mountain bike derailleur, we're gonna add 4 rivets before we cut. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna cut the chain right here. We can push that pin all the way out this time because we are using the quick link to put these together. Now we've got an inside link and an inside link, and our quick link will replace the outer link that matches the two together there. Okay, we're now gonna lace the chain through the derailleur. And we want the chain to come over this rear sprocket, around the guide wheel, and then there's a little metal tab that you can't really see in the video right back here that we need to be on top of before our chain continues out this way. So we're gonna actually work from the top this time. Make sure that the chain is laid over the gears. If there's any writing on the chain, we want it to be on the outside of the chain. This chain appears to be symmetrical. We come through, and then we need to make sure that we're going over the top of that little block right here, and then we're going to join our chain together out front there. We're now going to take our quick link and we're going to place one end facing through the back on one side, one end facing through the front on the other side, and we're going to pull the two edges together. We want to make sure that the pin from each side meets the opening from the other, and we can bring them together like so. We're now going to use our quick link pliers to pry these apart. So we're going to set them on either side and we pull apart, and that's going to snap the link into place. And there we have it. Our chain is now complete. Before we start lacing everything up, we're going to make sure the front wheel's in place so we can start hooking up the brakes. And it's a tight fit between the brake pads, but the front wheel goes a little bit easier than the rear wheel. Because this is a dynamo hub, I need to make sure that my dynamo port is out of the way of the fork, and this all fits together quite nicely.